Okay, today we're going to talk about how to get a raise, and I've been on record sharing how I got a 17% raise year over year when I was at Deloitte. And so I'm going to share my exact playbook. And I want to start off with a disclaimer. And this might offend people, but don't be offended, get better. Most people don't deserve a raise. And here's why. It's because they don't understand what value is. And so most people think because they put time in, because they show up to work every day and they put a smile on their face and their boss's face, therefore they equal a deserving raise. And that's just not the case. And so I can speak from both directions. I have been an employee and I've been a business owner. And I would tell you, as a business owner, I've learned a lot and I've seen this a lot differently from a different perspective. So I have perspectives from both sides. It's really easy to go as an employee into a job every single day, and you're stressed personally to get to that job, to get on there on time. You have a lot of personal demands on yourself, and it takes a lot to perform at a high level, or even just to do your basic job, your duties that you've signed up to do at the rate that you agreed to, which is your contract. And so oftentimes we use that personal vendetta or grudge of everything we have to deal with personally, and we put that on our boss and say, and I get mad and, get upset that they are not giving us a raise. But in fact, outside of a cost of living adjustment, most people do not deserve this because they don't provide additional value. And so when you provide additional value, you should be getting raises. And I'm going to walk you through the playbook once you understand that key concept. Time does not equal more money. And so as you go throughout your career and you start to work in your career in your field and you're trying to get a raise, not only use this playbook, but think of the word value. What type of value am I providing my company? Is my boss making more money or less money as a result? Are they staying status quo because of me? And when you start to look internally and ask yourself that question, all of a sudden the raises will be easy. So I'm going to share my playbook exactly how to do this. And so I want you to remember as we talk about this is that this is going to be a sales pitch, but you are not selling. You are providing data and influencing. And so that is what Sales 101 is. I'm never going to say, buy my stuff. I'm going to say it's probably a really good idea because X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to show you all the results we're getting internally with our students, and you're going to make that judgment yourself to proceed and work with me. And most smart people do because they'll get actual results. And that's how I want you to phrase and think about this: is selling is serving. When I'm selling something, I'm not telling you to do something. I'm serving you and helping you find and come to your own conclusion. That should be the same concept you're applying to getting a raise. When you go to your boss, you should be serving your boss. You should be providing value, and it makes sense for your boss to, well, obviously I'll give him a raise or her a raise. Like, why wouldn't I? And that is how you should think about this. If you go in with the idea of saying, well, I should just ask for, hey, can I make more money next year? There's not a whole lot of reason that person would want to give you that raise outside of maybe some politics behind the scenes. And so I'm going to walk you through the 4 things I would consider and how I would go about doing this, and exactly what I did in my playbook when I actually got a 17% raise. And I learned this the hard way from year 2 to year 3 at Deloitte. Year 2, I went in with the very, very immature way to do it. Is like, man, I've been working hard. I think I should earn more money, boss. And that boss was like, well, not everybody you haven't really provided additional value outside of what you agreed upon and what your contract stated. So why should I give you a raise? And that's how I handled the year 2. Now, year 2 to year 3 was that big jump of 17%. And a lot of the reason behind that is exactly what I did right here. So number 1 is gathering the facts. Before you even think about asking your boss for a raise, you need to gather the facts. You need to know a few things. You need to know market data, and you need to know comparable positions. If I know as a CPA, I was a CPA at Deloitte for quite some time. If I know another position out there in doing pretty much what I'm doing is making 20,000 more than me, and most of the market's making 20,000 more than I'm making, I already have some really good data that I can reference in my pitch or in my sales pitch or whatever you want to call it, and bring that fact up. Because if I'm good at what I do and I decide to leave and do the exact position elsewhere, I'll get paid 20,000 more. Well, why not? And so if I know the comparable positions, I don't just walk in there and say, well, I deserve 10,000 more dollars, but I have real data to back the reason I'm bringing this to your attention, that I'm going to have a way better odds of actually getting this raise. And so knowing the data, the market data and comparable positions is very, very important. Now, the other thing is understanding market demand. And so this kind of goes hand in hand with market data. But for example, if I'm a replaceable position, and by the way, everybody's replaceable at their job, no matter what they think. If I'm a replaceable position and the market's tanking, we're going on a recession or something along the lines of that, and my position is not as favorable in that type of condition, market condition, I need to be hyper aware of that. I should be praying I just keep my job at that point in time. And I've talked to a lot of people at Deloitte during the '08 cycle, is a lot of them were just praying to God that they weren't thinking about raises at that point in time. They were just aware and hyper aware that everybody was losing their job. And if they kept their job, they would be okay. They would be fine. And so as you going into this conversation, as you think about this, think about the actual economy, how it's performing. Are we in a good economy? Are we in a rising economy? Are we in the front end or back end of a good or bad economy? And when you can ask for that raise and timing of this raise is going to be super important. So you have to understand the market demand that goes with your position. You can't just generally say, well, we're in a recessionary time, as a company, and think as a business owner. And I have this unique perspective because I've been on both sides. But a lot of employees do not think like a business owner. They think like an employee because they're employees and they stay in that employee mindset their whole life. And they wonder why they can't get through to their bosses because they're not thinking like their boss does. Put yourself in their position. You own a business and somebody owns this business. Obviously, they have a family to feed and all this kind of stuff. They want to increase their margins. They want to make sure their margins look good. They feel comfortable. Their family's fed. They're not, over levered and all this kind of stuff. And then some jackass employee comes to them that has no value besides what their base minimum is and provides. And they're like, well, I would deserve a raise. That boss doesn't care for that person at all. Just going to put it blunt. And so instead of doing that, you need to be hyper aware of the time that they're in and the decisions that they're facing as a business owner. If there's a tight recession, they're trying to pull back. The last thing they're going to think about is, hey, I should be increasing wages. I should be increasing spend. They're going to probably be a little bit of contracting. Their business is going to be contracting or being tight. And so thinking from their perspective as a business owner is going to serve you very, very well. And so the next piece of the puzzle is understanding the benchmark salary of that position. Like I talked a little bit about knowing the market data and comparable positions. If I am just asking for a raise to ask for a raise, but I'm already overpaid in this type of field by $10,000, the last thing my boss is going to do is give me a raise because he knows he has the leverage or she has the leverage. If she or he decides to say no, what what can I fall back on? I have to go to another company and make less money because that's what this market comparable is, or that's what this specific salary, benchmark salary is. Maybe I have it really good and I would be very careful asking for this. And if I can't provide more value outside, and I talk about value a lot, if I can't provide more value than I'm receiving, then why would my boss actually give me that raise? And I always think about this as well. Instead of like worrying about like a dollar amount, think about how you can provide value. And I did this with Budget Dog and everything. Like when I was an employee, I was thinking like an employee. I was just doing my job, showing up, doing my job, and hoping I got more money and raises and stuff like that. But eventually I thought about how can I provide more value? In that jump from year 2 to year 3, I actually got IFRS certified. And so that is International Financial Reporting Standards certified. And so I provided more value than my peers did for different clients they were on because I had a special certification to provide more value and I got certified myself. And so I went above and beyond outside of work hours. Yes, that's how you do this. Unfortunately, I know people want this work-life balance thing. It doesn't work like that, just so you know. And so if you really want to provide immense value, you don't have work-life balance. You do overwork and you do put in a lot of hours and you do go above and beyond with different certifications and value that you can provide. If I can't provide additional value and I'm just showing up, clocking in, clocking out, there's no reason that this boss is incentivized to give me a raise. But I did. I got certified. I was able to be on clients that other peers in my age group weren't able to be on. I was able to provide expertise to clients that other people in my age group weren't able to do. As a result, there was a lot of value I was putting around myself in my position so that it made sense to give me a raise. They want to keep me there. Not only do they want to keep me there, they want to incentivize me to want to be there. And so if I have more value to provide, I have less reliance on my company. If you start thinking like that and you start to position yourself as the expert and you start to increase your value in your skill sets, the world is yours. And I don't think people think like that. And I know people don't think like that because, like I said in the beginning, most people don't deserve a raise. They just go on and on and on about why they should make more money because they put the time in. They forgot about the value they provide. And the marketplace rewards value. And as I jumped into Budget Dog and it was just a free service at some point, I initially just provided good value and people wanted to pay me. They asked me to pay. They literally said, "Hey, how do I pay you?" Like, don't worry about it. But I provided so much value for such a long period of time for free that people were dying to pay me because I literally could change their life, and I still do to this day. And so as I was building my company, I literally thought the whole time, how can I provide value? I never said, how can I make more money? That's such a short-sighted way of thinking of it. I literally said, how can I provide more value? And I do this right now. I literally sent a message to my students yesterday. How can I provide more value if there's one additional thing? And I gave them like 4 or 5 different ideas of like, what's that one thing you guys want? And I can go build that and productize that, and I can profit off of that naturally. But there's no reason you shouldn't be able to, because if you provide value, this is the biggest mind-blowing concept to a lot of people is if you exchange dollars for value, people treat that as a fair exchange. Like there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of people are like, business owners stink. Business owners are greedy. No, they aren't. The marketplace is paying them because they provide value that at an exponential rate. And the average population of the marketplace says, hey, this is worth X number of dollars because I'm giving that money over. And that business owner has created value out of thin air, and therefore they're exchanging dollars and receiving dollars as a result. That's exactly how you should picture this. And when you think like a business owner and you think like an actual entrepreneur and not like an employee, you're going to get a raise. I guarantee it, because you're going to position yourself to do so. So the second thing, and I think this is important, once you know the facts, once you're providing the value, you're starting to think through this, is tracking your performance data. I can't tell you how many times people just don't do this. They don't think about it. And they're like, well, I provided value back in March, but then you kind of forget the details of what kind of value you provided. I did this at Deloitte. I had a notebook, very simple notebook, and I kept all the basically my receipts of everything I was doing and the value it provided from a dollar's perspective, from a bottom line perspective. Because the thing is, just because I work hard, effort's not rewarded, unfortunately. And if I work really hard, but I don't really help build the house faster than everybody else out there, it doesn't matter how hard I work. I just have to work harder, it sounds like. If I find ways to build that house faster and become more efficient for that home builder is going to say, I want that guy in every single home I'm building because he's faster. He makes me more money. I'm going to pay him a little bit more than the average person out there, the average salary, because he's going to make me more money. And that's a very common sense take, but a lot of people don't think this way. And so tracking the performance data of your contributions and how it actually impacts the bottom line is huge the whole time period. You will forget throughout the year. I promise you, even if you provide extreme contributions, you save the company $20,000, there's going to be details that you forget. Write everything down. So as you prepare for this discussion, which we'll talk about in a second, it's going to make sense as to why they'll give you the raise. And so showing the numbers behind that contribution, not just like, hey, I worked really hard, because effort's not rewarded, guys. I hate to say it's not. Working harder is not going to help you. And so actually putting the numbers to the paper and saying, I literally found this, let's call it, you're in FP&A, financial planning and analysis. I found this huge accounting error that we had in our accounting department, and as a result, this actually saved our company, 2% of the bottom line, which equated to millions of dollars. That's a pretty significant contribution, and it's also has dollars associated with it that show that boss that you saved that company millions of dollars or whatever the contribution is. That's a huge piece. And the more prepared, the more polished and presentable you are during this time, is the more convincing you're going to be. So if I come very prepared, just think about anything. You show somebody any bit of respect or preparedness, and you walk into something, you just look the part, you have a lot better odds to get that job or to get that raise, because you're looking the part, you're polished, you're prepared, you're not stuttering over your words, you know what you deserve, and you're walking with very, very high intent. So tracking the performance data after you gather the facts so you can start to piece together your sales pitch. The next piece is actually preparing for this big discussion. Let me tell you this. Most people will wait for their annual discussion performance, and that is the worst thing to do. I can tell you as a business owner, and again, I have both perspectives. It drives me crazy when somebody doesn't take the lead and take natural ownership, or they think, well, that's not in my pay grade. I swear if I hear that term again, that's not in my pay grade, or that's not what I'm paid for. Well, that's why you're not getting paid more, because you're not stepping up naturally and you're not taking the lead. If you take the lead, you're going to get paid more naturally because you're starting to elevate yourself, and you should be providing value before the money follows once you provide the value and step up. But if you operate in your little box of your little tasks that you do at work and you never go outside your box, well, that's why you're paid what you're paid for. You've already agreed, I'm going to do all of these tasks for X amount of dollars, and we've all agreed upon that's a good idea. So if I just stay longer, like let's say I stay 4 years and do the same thing, I'm not doing anything more. Sure, I can get a cost of living adjustment, but should I be getting a raise? Not really. No, not necessarily. And so if I get out of my box, employees, I'm looking at you because employees love to stay in their little comfortable box. And I start to think like a business owner and think about, how do all these pieces connect? And I have a unique experience as an employee because I was an auditor, and I actually was essentially a consultant where I saw all the pieces of the puzzle of a business and how they all connected. And so I was thinking about, okay, AP, accounts payable, AR over here, sales over here, marketing over here, student success, or success over here. And I was thinking of all the connecting parts and how they all provided value to the overall mission of the company. That changed the game because I saw it from a different perspective. I wasn't just sitting in AP or AR. I wasn't just sitting in sales or marketing. I was looking at everything, and I was seeing how all the dots connected. And therefore, I was taking the lead and saying, I don't need to sit in this little tiny box of just my duties every single day. I need to think about, what value can I provide the sales team or the marketing team or the AP team or the AR team, and how can I provide additional value to them for them to make more money for the other departments? And because of that, because I'm thinking differently, because I'm thinking as a business owner, I'm seeing the whole picture, I naturally will provide more value and create more value. Whereas the employee is hired for a specific position, and therefore a lot of very uh, nervous type of people out there, are very uptight people. They're afraid to like take the lead. I can't tell you how impressive it is as a business owner when one of my players on my team takes the lead to do something they aren't required to do. I'm opening my wallet for that individual. I'm saying, please do that, but you're going to get paid more, and I want to elevate you naturally. The ascension of an employee naturally into leadership positions is a game changer. If you're sitting in a position and you're just doing the same thing over and over and over, you might be good at what you do, but there's no ascension plan for you. And the business owner sees you as that type of person versus a leader in the company. And so you need to take the lead as you prepare for this discussion, and do not wait for an annual review because that takes a year to get to. Ask for the discussion. Be proactive. Little things like that are going to go a long way. You're prepared. You have market data. You know why you should get a raise. You're aggressive. You're taking the lead. That's very appealing to a business owner because that person's going to ascend in that company and provide additional value. Therefore, I want that person part of my company. I tell everyone on my team, I want you to naturally ascend. I'm not going to appoint a leader. A leader will appoint themselves within my company. And a lot have naturally risen through the ranks because I've promoted that message so many times. They're not saying, well, that's not my duty. Well, that's the manager's duty, or that's that they step up and they become the manager as a result. And as you increase your position and ascension, you get paid more as a result naturally. You don't even have to do the pitching. And so before you prepare for this discussion, you need to make sure you're preparing for the strong language that you're using. Walk through your pitch. What are you actually selling? Why should you be getting a raise? But don't be passive in your language. Too many people are passive. They're like, I think I should do this. I think I should get this raise. I think I should, or they won't make eye contact, or they'll be very like closed off with their body language. Body language is very, very strong, and having a strong presence and also being very demanding and also very personable at that point in time will have a better success rate than somebody that's really nervous or standoffish, or isn't going to really be aggressive or assertive with asking for getting a raise, and they're just kind of sitting back. If you present yourself differently, you're presentable, you're more confident, you're going to get the raise. If you sit back and you're nervous about everything and you think life's supposed to just hand you stuff, it's not going to happen. And you're going to really, really struggle. Now, the biggest piece as you go into this meeting, as you demand this meeting, as you ask for this, and you're presenting all the facts, and you're presenting all the performance data, and you're explaining how you contributed to this company, how you've helped the bottom line, all that kind of stuff, how you provided value, how you see in the future additional value that you're going to be able to create, how you're thinking forward in a managerial role. You're really thinking, okay, I think I can do, if I'm able to position myself over here, boss, I'm able to do this, this, and this, that it's going to really help the company save X amount of dollars or generate more dollars. And therefore, I should naturally not even have to ask for a raise, but I will naturally get the raise if I'm providing all this additional value. But if you do go into asking for a raise, and this is a big piece of the puzzle, you need a fallback position, because if you walk in and do everything I just talked about, you're gathering the facts, you know the market comparables, you're tracking your performance data, you go in really confident, and they call your bluff because of whatever you miscalculated something along the lines, and they say no, or they say, well, we'll talk about it, or I'll escalate this up to other management to see if we can make this happen for you, and they're just brushing it off. You need a fallback position, because if you're gonna ask for a raise and not have a fallback position that you can easily go to or easily call their bluff themselves on, you're not going to get the raise. Because if and I did this at one point in Deloitte, I said, I'm going to leave. I already have a better position. I interviewed, and I highly recommend interviewing before you go through this process, so you have potential opportunities on the table. And so you can push the envelope. If I know I'm making 85,000 at a company, and I go interview for a position for 95, and my ask is 100,000 for the raise, well, I can say, well, listen, I got a position for 95. I'm only making 85 here. I'd rather go there. But if I'm able to get to 100,000, I would love to stay here. But if you don't have that leverage point, they're just going to say, well, you don't have anything else to fall back on, so I don't have to pay you. And you're replaceable. Remember that. You're replaceable, and you're not providing additional value. Or even if you are, and they say, hey, it's not the time for a raise, you have nowhere to go. So they have the ultimate leverage point. But if you have the leverage because of what you and how you present yourself, and also the other opportunities you have all of the power in the world. If you create opportunities for yourself, it's game over. Because then if they do say no, and they hold they hold strong in that stance, you're out. And now what happens is they have to not only pay another person likely your salary, they have to go train that person, they have to go hire that person, they have to go have delayed impact to the company, which takes a while to onboard somebody and train somebody in your position, assuming that you provide a lot of value. And that company does not want to do that. I can promise you that, and I'm speaking from experience. The last thing I want somebody to do is to leave the company and me have to go hire somebody, go train somebody. That's a costly process. That process costs more than likely your raise. And they already have the familiarity with you. You've already been around. You've already provided value. Oftentimes that company is going to budge, especially when you have additional opportunities out there. But if you don't have opportunities and you're not providing value, not doing everything I just talked about, it's going to be really hard for you to actually get the raise that you're looking for, because they don't care. So let's recap this. And I think this is really important, because if you apply these exact steps I did and really take this to heart, you're going to get a raise. Like I know you will. So first things first, most people don't deserve a raise, like I mentioned. Secondly, this is a sales pitch, and you shouldn't be selling anything. You should be providing value the whole entire time, and the company will decide whether or not to give you that raise. Number three is gathering the facts, making sure you have the market comparables, the market data, understanding your market demand, benchmarking your salary, using the Glassdoor, different websites out there. Number 4 is tracking your performance data, really having a written notebook or written Excel sheet or whatever the case is, of quantifying the actual value you're providing and showing the contributions that you provided throughout the year, whether they have numbers associated or not. Some of it's morale stuff. Preparing for that discussion, being confident, taking the lead, being proactive, things of that nature. And then also having a fallback position. So basically making sure that you're interviewing this entire time, so you have other things to fall back on. Because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to say, well, I need that raise. And they're like, well, no, well, I had nothing else to go to, so therefore I just have to accept. And then you have a position of weakness, and going forward, they're not going to take you as serious. So you're probably never going to get a raise going forward until you actually step up to the plate and use all the things I just talked about to get the raise. If you apply this stuff, you will get a raise. I guarantee it. But the big differentiator between somebody that does and does not, at the core of all of this, is what type of value can you present to your company. If you can present the value that you believe you're giving, and you believe that raise should be associated with that value you're providing, you will get a raise. Take this to heart, apply this. And I want to hear you guys come to my DMs and let me know how many of you guys got raises based on this exact podcast and how much that raise was. And I'll share that with all my people out there. And it will be exciting to have other people take this lead and take this framework and apply it to their situation. And I will see you next week.
You've been listening to Money on My Mind with your host, Brendan Schlagbaum. If you found value in today's discussion, share it with someone who could benefit from it too. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, so you never miss a money mastery tip. Until next time, stay passionate about your financial journey and keep taking bold steps towards your money goals.